Hi, welcome back to the GM Academy. Of course, I am your instructor, Jim McClure, and we are working through our Designing Villains 1.0 series, and we are at Class 102. So we're just going to kind of jump right on in here. Class 102 is on villain motivation, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Creating and setting up the motivation that makes your villain do what they want to do. Now, there's a couple really key aspects into this. The first one being the villains need to have a clear goal that is in contrast with the hero's goal. Now, that's really important. They can't have a goal that is not in contrast with the hero. They then wouldn't be the villain. They wouldn't be the antagonist. That is numero uno, what needs to be set up. That is the core conflict. The villain needs to have a goal that is in conflict with what the heroes are doing. And that conflict cannot be resolved without the conflict resolution mechanic that is your game. In tabletop, most of the time this is combat. Most of the time we are going to go to war with the villain and we are going to slay him with our swords and with our magic. There's of course plenty of other types of tabletop, that we're going to slay him with political negotiation or whatever the case may be. But the fact is, you want to set up a goal for the villain and a goal for the heroes, although the heroes probably have their own goal. But the villain's goal should be set up in direct contrast with the players so that it can only be resolved. Both parties cannot achieve their goal without conflict. Again, whatever the type of conflict may be. And that's the first thing that you want to do when you're setting up your villains. And that's the biggest thing that you want to do. What do the players want? The villain wants the opposite of that. Or perhaps they both want the same thing in the fact of, the villains need to get the key to get through the secret door. Well, the villain's also trying to do the same thing. So therefore, we are both going to fight over the key. The players want a liberated, free society, and the villain is directly oppressing the PCs and all the villains. Both parties can't get what they want. Ultimately, something has to change, and it's going to change through conflict. So when you're setting up your villain's motivation, what you want to do is, what interests my players? What drives their characters? What makes them do what they want to do? And what are they currently striving towards? And then make a villain that directly opposes that. Because that's where you're going to get your best conflict. That is what the villain, the antagonist, is supposed to be doing. Now, once you've identified what you need to do, the other thing you really need to do is make the motivation believable, especially if we're doing an intelligent type of villain. If it's just a, destroy the whole world, conquer the world, what have you, Street Fighter M. Bison type villain, I do it to take over the world, then yeah, it's an unintelligent villain, and they are essentially just acting on basic instinct. But if you have an intelligent villain that you're facing, you need a believable motivation. Now, the example I really use, not my all-time favorite villain, but one of the best examples that is sort of relevant to modern day is if we look at Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones. Now, I understand not everyone watches Game of Thrones, but you all should. But with Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones, what he is he is the head of essentially the most powerful house within the kingdom. And he is very family oriented. The Lannister family will succeed. They will thrive. This was instilled in him since birth from his father. Now, he does a lot of very aggressive, very ruthless actions, but it's all to further his family. It's all to further his children and his lineage and ultimately his destiny. How he's seen throughout the generations, how his family is seen throughout the generations. He has a very believable motivation, and he has a very strong drive for that motivation. It was drilled into him. This is what he wants to accomplish. He will sacrifice and kill everything else to accomplish this goal. So that gives us a very believable motivation. It's not, I want to take over the world. I mean, again, within the Game of Thrones, Tywin Lannister is the one person that could have taken the throne because he had the power to do so and didn't, because his ambition was not raw power. His ambition was the legacy of his family. So you want to establish that believable motivation behind your villain, because it will really make your players connect with him to a certain degree. And the best villains players connect with. they understand them on some basic level. They might not agree with the motivations, they might not agree with the ideology behind it, but they understand that it's there, and that gets the best connection between players and between villains, and will get you the best kind of dramatic situation. So that has been our 102 class. Of course, we're going to continue going through the Designing the Villain series, and I hope you'll join us through the rest of them. Class dismissed. Thank you for watching the GM Academy. You can click the video to see all of our classes on designing villains, and you can subscribe to get the latest information and videos from the GM Academy. If you enjoyed what you saw here, please hit the like button. It really does help us to continue to put out quality information to the community. Again, thank you for watching, and thank you for your support.